Shifting gears, I want to ask you what your thoughts are on the AI side of the house, artificial intelligence and quantum computing and Chat GPT and all that stuff that has been in the news recently. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's coming. It's been coming. We foresaw it in all sorts of science fiction novels and movies. So, what do you think? What's going on with Chat GPT?
Let me give you three things here. So, first of all, there are two types of AI. You've got applied AI, which is what we use in, say, automation and programming, where you have a very complex decision tree. And if anything falls out of that decision tree, the whole thing falls apart. So that's a programming issue. That's applied mechanics, applied intelligence, if you want to call it that. But it's really more accurately thought of as machine learning.
Okay.
And it requires a lot of people. One of the reasons the Chinese are pretty decent at this space is they have a lot of people. And so when you throw a lot of folks who earn only $15,000 to $20,000 a year at a problem like this, you can do a lot of programming. General AI, machines that can think, machines that can operate independently. This is like getting into like automated driving, for example.
Which you don't like, right? Is that, are you, you don't have a Tesla?
Well, that's an EV. Oh. EV and AV, two different things.
Okay.
We can talk about EVs later. So you can do an automatic driving with a conventional vehicle. It's more common with electric just because you already have the computers in there. So
you're driving a computer essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's more common with electric vehicles, certainly, because it's a different power load. Whereas an internal combustion engine is going to be, diesel or gasoline driven. It just doesn't generate nearly as much electricity. It can be modified to be an AV, but it's not. It's more of a conversion than you can do for an EV.
Okay.
Anyway, applied intelligence. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. General AI, general intelligence. We don't have that yet. We're not close. We're not within 30 years. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just not going to happen soon. So lots and lots and lots and lots of human programming to establish this decision tree that the machine then tries to follow. But it's not very good at doing things like recognizing stuff on the shoulders. So, for example, if, the way it was explained to me, I think most effectively, is if you've got a stop sign on a road, an EV or an AV car will see that and it will stop. But what if the stop sign is on the side of the building and it's part of a marketing campaign?
You can't differentiate.
It's like driving by the building and it just stops because that's the context that it knows it in. So decisions that a 3-year-old is capable of making, AI today can't make. So if it involves math and physical processes and crunching, no problem. It's great. But if it requires decision making, not so much. So that's your first issue.
Yeah.
Your second issue is that true AI, especially general AI, but to a degree, even the applied stuff, that requires those chips that are 4 nanometers or 10 nanometers or smaller. Really, the 4 nanometer types are the ones you need. And if anything goes wrong with the international trading system, those just go away for a decade. And we're going to see that happen in the next year or two. So it's not that this is a dead sector. It's not that there's no potential, but the hype has gotten ahead of where our capabilities are. And the hype has gotten way ahead of what our material constraints are.
Interesting. So what does Chat GPT fall on this? Is it more like, hey, the high school kid, college kid's going to have their paper written for them by something and say, hey, write this in so it sounds like me. And because this Chat GPT stuff, I haven't played around with it much. I've been writing, so I haven't had a chance.
Sure, I can relate.
But like it can go. I think you give it access to, or you can give it access to all of your stuff on your computer. So it is now kind of can learn how to talk like you essentially, and maybe
for what is basically an alpha test, it is remarkably sophisticated. I mean, there aren't a lot of people out there. If you put a Chat GPT paper in front of them, they're going to think that a human wrote it. But for a first generation, it's really good. So I would expect that to come a lot further along. Now, one of the things to remember about Chat GPT and any sort of internet-based AI system, that's based on a server. That doesn't have to worry about the mechanics of movement. And that means you can do things with that at scale that you can't do with some of these other applications that people are really excited about. So that is definitely a technology to keep an eye on.
The Chat GPT. I'm gonna mess around with it a little bit. Somebody sent me something. They said, write the next chapter in Jack Carr's book, sounding like Jack Carr. And they sent it to me, and it wasn't great, but it was. I mean, but it was it was
for something that came out of 40 keystrokes, pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was on the right track. But so it was really, really interesting. So I might play around with that a little bit.